I've mentioned this idea of externalities, I think about 2 times already in this chapter. So let's look at them a little closer. So what's an externality? By definition, is something or someone that is acting outside of the market that you're looking at, and is affecting your market, even though that one thing that we're talking about, that externality, is not directly related, is not part of that market. But it's some kind of link. So it's the actions taken by individuals in the process of producing or consuming that will have an effect on the welfare of others. In other words, this is when you have 2 markets that there are separate markets, and one has an effect, affects the other one. Someone has, when the other market is acting, is doing its thing, some of the things that are happening on that market are spilling over into the market that you're looking at. So let's take a look at a few examples on what that means. But first of all, they could be positive or they could be negative. Even though the word externality, I think we all think of something negative, an externality. It sounds like something bad, something negative. It doesn't have to be negative. Sometimes it's positive. So you will have positive externalities and negative externalities. You have both cases. So what are those cases? For example, negative externalities would be the example. Now we're digging deeper. Now we're going to talk about those examples. It could be a factory that dumps toxic waste into the rivers, causing shifts in production downstream, or even sickness to the people drinking that water. So just think about a factory that makes paint that is up the river, and a factory that makes bottled water down the river, and the factory up the street is dumping chemicals into the water, and the water goes down the river, and the factory down river now has to clean up that water so it can sell that water. Well, so the paint factory is creating an externality, a negative externality, because it's increasing the cost on the bottled water downriver, even though it has nothing to do with bottled water, right? One is paint, one is water. So that's a negative externality. We have so many others. We have acid rain. We have traffic congestion, smoking, right? That's a big one, right? If I don't smoke, but you smoke near me, I'm taking some of that smoke into my lungs. So you're causing a cost. Your action, right? The market being cigarettes, right? Then the market would be you and the cigarette maker. You bought the cigarettes from the cigarette maker. I have nothing to do with that. And yet I am bearing some of the cost of cigarettes. And so the problem is that externalities affect economic efficiency because they shift everything around, and the outcome is not what we would have expected or hoped previously. So it is a problem for economics. It is a problem for this idea of efficiency. Let's take a look at an example here using our charts. So we start with this curve and that curve, right? So let's say that this is your marginal benefit and this is your marginal cost. You can think of this as supply and demand as well, but let's just keep it simple. This is your private cost, and this is your marginal benefit, right? So you will behave as usual. That's where you will set the quantity and the price. But let's say that for whatever reason, we have an externality. I think I have an example here. Oh yeah, this is commuting, right? This is this whole slide is about commuting. This is your cost and your benefit of commuting. So you commute so many miles, and you're willing to pay PM price. But there is a externality that you're imposing on others when you're commuting, when you're driving your car to work, right? Pollution, noise. You are creating more traffic, so other people are delayed getting to work because you are on the road, right? Many others. So that's a cost to society. So in reality, the cost of driving, the cost of commuting is actually much higher than what we think it is, because it's this externality, because you're imposing cost to others. So in reality, the curve should be this one, the social cost. That social cost would include the private cost, right? The cost that is bear by the commuters, plus the externality, plus the cost that they're imposing on others. And if this is true, as we can see here, the price and the quantity will change. Socially, people will want less commuting, and they will want the price to be higher, right? Higher fuel, higher everything, so you can compensate, higher taxes, so you can compensate those that don't commute, etc., etc. We don't need to go that far, but that's what we're talking about. This negative externality raises the cost up to here, which also reduces the quantity, the desirable quantity, the quantity that socially we will love to see. If that's true, then yeah, that will be efficient, but it's probably not true. Maybe not. If we're still operating at this level, but this is the efficient level, because this is what socially efficiency, the social efficiency point will be, and we're here, then we are not being efficient. So that's the problem with an externality. And of course, we can fix this with taxes and many other things, but mainly with taxes. We can change that behavior. Public goods are another market failure, one that many think is a proof that economics doesn't work. No, economics still works. Economics is what explains to us what a public good is. So what is a public good? Technically, what a public good is a good that is not excludable and not non-rival. That is, you cannot keep others from consuming, and when you're consuming it, you don't reduce the amount consumed by others. Okay? Like, for example, air. I can keep you from consuming air because it's just there, right? I have no way to stop you from doing it. And when you consume air, when you breathe, you're not taking my air, right? You're watching this video right now, you're breathing, and I don't feel it. I'm breathing over here, and I don't feel the fact that you just took a little bit of air out of the planet Earth, right? That's a public good. Other public goods, famous goods, are a public park, right? In a public park, you can be there, I can be over here. It shouldn't bother me that you're there. I can do my thing over here. Maybe you will bother me, and that's where we're going to take this conversation. We'll get there. National defense, for example, right? Our military protects the whole country, not just some, all of them. They can't say, "Oh, we're just going to protect. We're going into a war, but only to protect, on behalf of half of the country and not behalf of the other." No, it's not really. Just you go there and you do the thing for the entire nation. And in economics, we like to explain public goods by telling the story of the tragedy of the commons. And it's a tale. It's a very interesting tale. And basically, what it is, and it's there. You can read it. But basically, imagine, and this is exactly what happened in the past. And this was an observation that economists made. If you have an empty field, a field that is public, anyone can use it and abuse it. There are no restrictions. You cannot exclude anyone. If you put in this case, what are these, goats, sheep? If you put your animals there to graze, they can graze. I can put mine. Nothing happens. Everything's okay. But the problem with public goods, and this is why they're interesting, is that because we cannot exclude people from using it, and we have this idea of non-rival goods, right? You consuming it doesn't mean that I can't consume it. We can both consume it. Ultimately, they will be consumed to the point of extinction. They will be consumed until that good is wiped out completely. It will be abused because no one has an incentive to stop consuming the product or to protect it, right? Why would I protect the earth on planet Earth when anyone can have it? Unless I have some kind of monetary right to it, why would I protect it? Anyone can have it, right? And that's also true about parks. That's also true about our streets. That's why our streets sometimes, some places are dirty. There is trash, right? Because like, oh, I don't care. I'm not gonna pick it up. It's not. It's everyone's street. It's anyone can use that street. So why would I clean it? Obviously, we keep our homes cleaner than our streets, right? Because our homes are our homes, and we can prevent others from coming in. But outside, we don't care. I shouldn't say that because I do pick up the trash around my place, by the way. I'm one of those annoying neighbors that picks up the trash in the morning. I don't mean our trash. I mean trash that other people leave in the streets. And of course, we have failures in medical markets. We do, and economics helps us understand why, where, who, and what to do about it. But they take place. And these take place regardless of who pays. And that's another argument that is made by some saying, well, if the government was the only payer, if we had a system of a single payer, there wouldn't be market failures. No, that's not true. There will be probably even bigger market failures. So that is absolutely not true. But there are market failures with both a perfectly public system and with a perfectly private system. We are going to have market failures. And we already mentioned them, with the monopolies, the externalities, and ultimately, is medical care a public good? And that's a question, right? That we all, I'm sure we have all talked about, debated at some point. Is healthcare, first of all, can we exclude people from having it? And when you have it, can I also have it? Well, so that's how the answer to me is very clear. Yes to both, right? I can exclude you from getting care, actually fairly easy. And when you consume it, this is the one that's a little more difficult to understand, but when you consume care, you're taking it away from me. If a doctor is treating you, that doctor cannot treat me. So it is a rival. The same for pharmaceuticals, the same for beds in a hospital. Don't we know that with during a pandemic, right? In a pandemic, all of a sudden we don't have enough beds. Well, there is a perfect example of why medical care is not a public good. It's a rival good. We don't have healthcare, we don't have medical care in infinite amounts. And these barriers ultimately keep the perfect competitive market to get into the medical market. That's why we don't observe perfectly competitive markets in healthcare, because we have imperfect information, we have problems with price transparency. We still don't know how much things really cost. I'm in insurance, and this is a big issue. This is something that we work on every single day with the hospitals, on this lack of transparency. The barriers to entry, third-party payers, we talked about this. These are some of the reasons why we can't achieve these are some of the reasons why we don't have a perfectly competitive market, but if we fix them, we could have a perfectly competitive market. And even if in a primarily private system like the U.S. system, we still have the government heavily involved. Maybe not as a single payer like in other countries, like most European countries, but they still play a huge role. They have price controls, entry restrictions, limits on how much you're allowed to invest in new programs, in new products, and new procedures. We have the tax policy. That's their number one weapon of choice, right? And we also have government failures. Therefore, we also have government failures. The government can also fail when they do all of these things. So they can fix some of the market failures with some of these tools, but these tools themselves can bring new market failures to the medical market. I could add to some of this, to what I have here. mandates at the state level and at the federal level. We wonder why our insurance policies, our premiums could keep going up higher and higher and higher. And if you look at what you pay for what you pay in your premium, about I don't know, 40-something%, probably close to 50% of what you're paying for are mandates that the state or the federal, whichever, have added to your policy. You're paying for things that you may or may not want, you may or may not need. I understand that is not the problem. That is not, for some of you, that is not the concern, but you need to understand where this is coming from. So when the government changes how insurance policies work, right? When they add, for example, okay, what are the big ones? So last year we added acupuncture must be covered by insurance policies. I don't remember what is it 12 sessions per year or something like that, or 10 sessions per year, but it's definitely now covered by your insurance in the state of Massachusetts, that is. Well, when the government does that, it introduces more cost to the system and the potential for more market failures, as it is potentially affecting the economic efficiency of the system. Thank you.